I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, degenerate sleuths of the night. We gather to boldly go where others have refused. Welcome to the DT show, you salty mofos.
A man accused of killing 4 college students is behind bars, and he has ties to northeastern and central Pennsylvania. State police say 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger was arrested this morning at a home in Chestnut Hill Township.
I can't find any case law that would support that idea. That somehow a warrant would be needed for DNA left at a crime scene.
We are expected to learn more about the allegations against the girlfriend of a Boston police officer who was found unresponsive in the snow Saturday morning. I-Team sources say Karen Reed was in a relationship with John O'Keefe. She's facing charges including motor vehicle homicide and manslaughter.
So, the Commonwealth just provided the court with information that causes me grave concern. The implications of that information may have profound effects on this defense and defense counsel.
So, get your popcorn ready and your choice of drink. Get your butt on your seat. Like, comment, and subscribe for a treat. Here we go. It's time for the show. The Drunk Turkey Show.
I swear, guys, you guys are going to get tired of seeing me so much. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. And another impromptu show, one that I wasn't planning on throwing out there, but we got some new documents and a little bit of breaking news as far as some information that everybody's been waiting on, as far as the 911 call, what was being said, if anything, between the surviving roommates, what was going on, what happened in those scenarios, and now they have seemed to have come to light. Also, there is another document that was dropped referencing some locations and a bunch of other things that the state plans on using at trial against Bryan Kohberger. We're going to go into those 3 documents today. There was a third one, or a fourth one, I apologize, but that one was quite lengthy, and we'll save that one for another time. But welcome back. This is the third show in 2 days. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Ring that notification bell so that way you're notified when we go live. As you can see, we do go live sometimes out of the blue. And so with that being said, let's break it down. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's see. Well, first, I want to say hello to a couple of new members. We got Cindy Lou in the house and also Patricia. Welcome, guys. Appreciate you guys being the newest members. I put out, I think, on the community post a link for the Discord so that way you guys can go in and conversate with us there. Yeah, I'm in there as much as I possibly can, but you have some really awesome folks in there. You have some folks like Deb and Chloe who are on it. When I have a question about something that I'm trying to put together, and it's in a little bit of a time crunch, and I'm like, hey, I need to find a certain thing or document or time. I'll put it out there in the Discord and always come through. Amazing folks in there. So keep them coming, keep going in there, and they'll keep coming and helping us, and you'll keep all that stuff going together. Let's see. Keep the shows coming. I appreciate it. I'll keep them coming. As long as things happen, I will. I'm not going to be putting out things just to put things out. You know what I'm saying? And so let's see. This one right here. This one's going to be the state's motion and limit for text messages and testimony. Now, and this one is referencing that the state wants to admit evidence, and basically what they're trying to do is say that there's no hearsay here, that this isn't second party information. Although some of it may be coming, from second parties, it's important because it's in the moment, and this is when people are trying to figure out things like what happened, and so the possibility of a fabrication is a little bit lower. And I think that's what it even mentions in these documents. But we'll go through them, and we'll talk about exactly what was said and those things. So let's start it off. This says here that this is that the state wants to admit text messages between DM on November 13th, 2012, and the testimony from DM and BF regarding their conversations with each other on November 13th, 2022. The phone records were discovered on hard drive and provided on April 5th, 2023 in the state's Exhibit 18 of the grand jury record. Okay, so let's see. Let's scroll down because a lot of this stuff here is just, lawyer mumbo jumbo. And let's go down here to the argument. DM's phone records contained Exhibit S1 for November 13th and BF's testimony as to what DM told her should be allowed at trial. In the case at bar, starting on November 13th, 2022, at 2:10 and 29 seconds, DM sends a text message to EG, Uber driver, to inquire if he is driving. The state submits his text message exchange is not hearsay because it will not be offered for the truth of the matter asserted, EG's driving status. Instead, it would be offered to show a timeline for the night. And DM was awake and texting at 2:10 a.m. Now, she's texting an Uber driver. This is early. And I'm assuming this is going to show that she was at the house already. And then it says here, it goes from 4:19 to 4:21, DM attempts to call Bethany, Xana Kernodle, and Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen. All the calls go unanswered. Even Bethany's call goes unanswered. The records of these calls are not hearsay as they do not meet the definition of statement. And so that continues to go on. So from 4:22 a.m. to 4:24, DM and Bethany send the following text messages. From DM to Bethany, it's no one is answering. I am really confused. And then Dylan texts Kaylee, what's going on? And then Bethany responds to Dylan, yeah, dude, WTF, Xana was wearing all black. Kind of says that she may have seen something, right? Or maybe she saw or knew what Xana was wearing from earlier that day. Maybe perhaps because Beth or DM may have said that she saw somebody wearing all black. You know what I'm saying? But it does kind of seem like some things are missing here. Maybe there were some text messages that were earlier than 4:22 that are also going to be referenced. Maybe for perhaps Dylan stating, I saw somebody wearing all black. Bethany saying that to Dylan is the part I think where they're trying to say is hearsay because she heard it from Dylan. If Dylan is saying, I saw somebody wearing all black, then perhaps, at that point, it wouldn't be an argument for the hearsay aspect. So my assumption is that this is around the time where Bethany started, maybe perhaps responding. But this is the part that they're claiming is the hearsay. So the hearsay aspect is that Xana was wearing all black. The non-hearsay aspect is Dylan probably saying, I saw somebody wearing all black. Now, if Bethany is responding with Xana's wearing all black, maybe she's trying to make sense of things as well. And it goes into the train of thought of both individuals that both of these folks at this time, 4:22, Bryan Kohberger has already allegedly left the area. He's already, we have a picture image of him leaving that area at 4:20. And so he's already gone. They're still trying to make sense of what had occurred. And the possibility of something highly nefarious happening is on their mind as they are pretty scared. But by her saying Xana was wearing all black kind of tells me that Bethany was probably trying to comfort DM's thoughts of what she saw of somebody wearing all black. It goes on to say that DM responds to Bethany saying, I'm freaking out right now. No, it's like a ski mask almost. And so I'm thinking that's what she's also stating as far as what she had seen, kind of referring to what Xana was wearing, saying, no, it wasn't Xana. Bethany comes back saying STFU actually. And so I think this is her not really knowing what happened. This is at 4:22. Is it possible that Bethany slept through the entire thing and was finally awakened by the phone calls and stuff? Maybe even some of the noise, but maybe it don't seem to me that she saw a lot or understood a lot, because from her saying STFU and then actually like it's like saying no way, like for real, who's wearing a ski mask. You know, she was trying to make sense of it, saying that perhaps the person in all black was Xana. DM then responds to BF like he had something over his head and little and mouth. Bethany, I'm not kidding. I am so freaked out. Bethany responds, so am I. Dylan responds, my phone is going to die, and she curses at that time. Bethany responds, come to my room, run down here. And this goes on to say that the declarations indicate that both BF and DM are trying to make sense of the startling event that immediately following this starting event, and they were trying to talk to each other about what's going on. And it goes on here to say that there is no time for reflection or fabrication. That tells me that, you know, this is a state document, right? I think they're preparing by them saying that there's no time for reflection or or fabrication, that they're anticipating that the defense is going to come in saying that maybe something is fabricated here. Just kind of, forehead. Tim Collins comes in with forehead equals forehead. Yes, sir. Yeah. I know that her text messaging, it wasn't for those that, let me put this up here for so they don't think I'm just randomly yelling out forehead. Tim Collins comes in saying that because this is how it was typed out. Yeah. There's some things that aren't typed correctly. In fact, one of these next things that we're going to talk about is going to reflect that. So, at 4:24:39, DM calls Ethan Chapin, which call is unanswered. The phone record, like the other records of calls. This phone record, like the other records of calls. So it's just saying that those calls also went unanswered. It says DM and BF continue to text at 4:24. DM text BF, and it says SC capital RWD though. And BF responds at 4:25:16 at, yeah, I know, but it's better than being alone. So a lot of folks, maybe not a lot of folks, let me rephrase that. When I first saw that, I thought maybe this said screwed, but I don't think that's what it says. You know, the capital R, if you look at the capital button on your phone, it's right next to the A. And I've actually made this mistake several times where I've tried to press the letter A, and instead of A, I hit the capital button, and then the next letter comes out capitalized. And so I think what she's trying to say is, I'm scared, though. I know some folks might look at this and say screwed, and they might kind of say, oh, man, she's saying I'm screwed, meaning that she had something to do with this, or maybe this is something, right? But I don't think that's the word screwed. That's the word scared. That's SC, and then the capital R tells me that, you know, the button that she was trying to press was next to the capital button, which is the A, not the E. And if you put an A there next to the R, and then you realize that the W was the mistake there instead of the E, and I'm scared though. And that's, you know, I mean, I can understand. And I'm assuming this is before she ran down to the first floor. Obviously, you know, this is probably in response to Bethany saying, you know, run down here, you know? Yeah, I'll leave it to the pro burgers to try and spin it. Yeah, I would have that. Mm-hmm. And this is the other point that Chloe makes. Could be missing text where no hearsay exceptions apply. And that is absolutely the case, because that's kind of what I mentioned before when we were talking about how Bethany was trying to come up with somebody, you know, Xana wearing all black as far as any. an explanation to what Dylan had seen. And you can tell that she's like, no, that's not it, because he's wearing a ski mask. So that just kind of tells you what that is, that there are some things there. Let's see. Scared, not screwed. Yep, it makes most sense. But wow, people are being so horrid over this. Poor kids, man. Yeah, no, she had no idea. But yeah, no, that was definitely scared. That was not screwed. All right, let's continue. It says here, again, both statements are admissible in present tense. Just kind of the legal jargon that they're trying to say that, this isn't hearsay. At 4:27, DM calls Kaylee unanswered. And at 4:28, DM calls Kernodle. That one's also unanswered. At 4:32, DM sends a text message to Kaylee stating, please answer. The next morning, DM sends the following text messages starting at 10:23. DM to Kaylee, please answer. DM to Mogen, are you up? DM to to Kaylee, are you up? They are allowable and present sense, present sense impressions as they reflect the consistency and continuation of DM's text messages from the night prior and reflect her then perception of what was then occurring, waking up and realizing she had not heard from her roommates. At 11:39 a.m., DM has a text exchange with her father. It doesn't go into what those texts were. Now, I know a lot of the pro-burgers are going to be like, well, we want to know, why isn't this out there? As we mentioned before, this is probably not hearsay. This is what she heard. This is probably what she's telling her father happened that night from her, first person sense, which is not going to be hearsay. Which we will find out what this is come time when trial comes. At 11:50, DM receives text messages from Jay stating, bro. Obviously, DM either had texted her or him. I don't know who Jay is. And that was the response that came back. But that was at 11:50. At 11:50, DM calls EA. Now, EA is who I suspect is the next door neighbor and one of the persons on the phone. EA is also the person I believe at the time was in a relationship with HJ. I think he was actually staying next door. I think that's why their response was so quick, was because they were next door at the 1112 King Road residence. I believe EJ was one of the persons. So remember when they had that video of that night where Maddie or Kaylee or nobody from the house was there, and somebody opened the door and there was that 911 video, the police cam. And at one point, somebody opens the door and closes it. Some people think it may have been Bethany. Some people think it may have been EA. I think it may have been her birthday that night. I could be wrong. This is just going off of my memory and my speculation, but I believe that's the case. I think Evan is maybe what the name was. But let's see. All right, so let's continue this. DM receives a text message from Jay at 11:51 and a vandal alert at 1:04 p.m. Okay. The state intends to ask, so the next part is BM and BF testimony contained in the state's exhibit S2. State intends to ask each witness statements made to them on November 13th, 2022. This testimony should be substantially replicate the testimony they provide at the grand jury proceedings. The state submits the statements from both DM and BF to each other are allowable hearsay because they are present tense, etc. All righty. And previously, Judge has previously ruled that the text messages and statements of DM and BF are present tense impressions and excited utterance, holding both text messages and testimony of BF and as to what DM told her were admissible as exceptions to the hearsay rule. All right. So that one's basically the text messages and stuff that went through up until the point where they called 911. This is what we know up to this point. Now, what we find out later is that Dylan suffered from lucid dreams, and she talks about how she'd been having nightmares, and wasn't, since high school or since before, that she had been struggling with what maybe some things that are real and some things that aren't. And I think that there's the possibility that um that she was the only one awake during this process or during this time, and she didn't know exactly what she saw. Now, yes, I agree, she should have called 911. Her, Bethany, I don't understand why they didn't, especially if nobody's answering, to even just do a welfare check. But as you can probably see based on what they're saying, and their age and what they said, they were intoxicated, under the influence, and just woken up. um I know a lot of people are going to hold a lot over them, but they're victims on their own as well. And I think this should have been released earlier. I don't think this would have hurt anything. I don't understand how this could have hurt the case whatsoever, putting this out there beforehand. Just my thoughts. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that this was worth being hidden from the public? I don't think so. That's not at all. But let's continue. Let's go to the next one, which is the 911 call. They don't have the 911. Call a 911 like anyone. All right. So I was reading a comment there. Midwest, I believe you're probably accurate there. Here comes the state of Idaho through Latah County. Prosecuting attorney moves the court in order allowing the state to admit the recording and transcript of the 911 call to the Whitcomb, on November 13, 2022. Now, here's the interesting thing, guys, right? And this is one of the things that I was talking about with former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer last night. If you guys haven't seen that live, go check it out. It was a great conversation and a great interview. I think you guys thoroughly enjoy it. Go check it out. But one of the things that I mentioned with her was, in my research, I found that all 911 calls go through the Whitcomb 911 that from that area. And that's from Moscow Police Department to Pullman Police Department to the WSU Police and so on. University of Idaho Police. They all use Whitcomb 911. So they are all based off of the same frequencies, etc., and have access to each other's frequencies on their radios. The next day, Bryan Kohberger allegedly goes, or is suspected to have gone back to the crime scene. And the documents say the crime scene, not the area, not the surrounding area, it says the crime scene. And, based on a lot of the things that he had done to elude the investigation, including never returning back to the scene, told me that he was very disciplined. He understood law enforcement investigative techniques, and that perhaps cameras and things of that nature were going to be set up to try to catch somebody returning back to the crime scene. But he returned. Now, obviously, I think it had a lot to do with the fact that this wasn't a big story yet. Now, he couldn't search Moscow, Idaho, quadruple homicide, stabbing, or any of those things because, well, that would have gotten him caught pretty quick. But to return to the scene is bold, because even if it's not out in the media, it doesn't mean that the scene hasn't been discovered. It doesn't mean that law enforcement hasn't already created a perimeter and are documenting vehicles that are entering in and out of that perimeter. That could have happened at any time. I seriously, and this is just my opinion and my thoughts, I speculate that there's the possibility that him being in the criminal justice department, that he may have had access to a tool like a radio, a dispatch radio, walkie-talkie type, a brick is what I used to call it back in the day, because when I was an officer, that's what it was. It was a huge walkie. Nowadays they're a little bit smaller. I'm not sure what the police jargon is for it now, but the radio. If he had a radio with him, he would have known that scene wasn't discovered, and he would have felt it would have probably made a person more comfortable knowing that the scene hadn't been discovered to return. That's just what I'm thinking, you know. And that's kind of what came up here when I was reading this. I was like, that chem lab break-in, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about the surveillance videos, and we're going to go through some maps and stuff. But that chem lab break-in, I had heard about. Howard Bloom mentions it. He thinks it's about building something else nefarious. You know, I looked up what is stored at that chem lab, and wouldn't you know, everything is stored there. From office supplies to chemicals to, you know, things that you would find in a lab to things you would find in an office. And in a picture, I had noticed that there are some walkie-talkies in there as well. And so I just kind of wonder if maybe perhaps one of those IDs and a glove inside of a box could have given him access to something like that. You know, the chem lab also was located on Nevada Street. And we'll go through some maps here in a little bit, it's not located on Nevada Street, but it's located near Nevada Street, which is the area where Bryan Kohberger allegedly went to in Pullman and disappeared for about 9 minutes. Remember, he turned his phone off and then he comes back, but it's after he went up north on South Nevada Street and then disappears for a little bit, and then he comes back, and then it says that he heads south out of Pullman towards Moscow. That vicinity where his vehicle was heading north to is the area where the WSU chem lab is. So interesting things there. Just wanted to bring that up. Susan says, and I apologize if I got to get your glasses. Cian says, pro burgers can't accept that they didn't talk about blood in the 911 call. I think the girls didn't enter the rooms, and Hunter Johnson was the first that saw it, and he couldn't even talk to the dispatcher because he was too emotional. I think you're onto something there. You know, and thank you so much for your super chat. But I think you're absolutely onto something. Right now, when I go through the 911 call, I've actually broke it down and color coded it. Let's see, I think it's down here. As you can see, we color coded it so that way I can determine who is what and who is saying who, and the male that is there, who I suspect to be Hunter Johnson, he's not saying much, and he doesn't seem to want to talk. So just want to throw that out there. But yeah, the great point here. Appreciate that, and thank you for your donation. All right, let's continue. This is the argument. The statements on the 911 call are hearsay, but fall within firmly rooted hearsay exceptions and should be allowed. Let's see. It says here, in the case at bar, most the declarations made were present sense impressions. HJ located the unresponsive body of Xana Kernodle and informed BF and DM to call 911. EA was present at the time. The majority of the declarants were describing to dispatcher Carolina Calvin what they were perceiving. Those statements relate to Kernodle being passed out and not waking up. The declarations were made immediately after HJ discovered Kernodle's body. So let's talk about that there. They're talking about her being passed out and not being woken up. Suan made a perfect point right now that it wasn't Hunter Johnson who said that she was knocked out and not waking up. In fact, he was the one that said that she's not breathing. And we'll go through it step by step, but it is a female who is saying that she's passed out and not waking up. So, you know, you might be onto something there as far as why it could be, why they thought she was just passed out. Now, the descriptions in the email or in the airmail, by Howard Bloom of what the scene looked like sound pretty horrific. I mean, there was blood coming out of the back of the house. You know, you can't deny that. They mentioned that the faces looked pristine, though, you know, without any cuts or anything like that. And, you know, I just wonder if maybe she was struck somewhere and maybe she was on top of it, that maybe it wasn't visible. I have no idea. But it is odd, but that doesn't mean anything nefarious. These are a bunch of kids that have seen a horrific crime scene. You know, most most adults have problems explaining those type of things. But let's continue. So this goes on to say, some declarations would also be considered excited utterances. Those statements include, "Oh, and they saw some man in the house last night." Yeah, as well as having breathing and crying that can be heard throughout the call. And that's one thing that you're not going to be able to pick up on the transcript, right? Is like the emotion behind it. You know, what were the sounds that were going on in the background? What was happening? You know, those type of things. All the statements are made while the declarants are processing what is happening and were made before an opportunity to reflect and fabricate why Kernodle is unconscious. Clearly, the statements of BF, DM, EA, HJ, and the dispatcher fall within the hearsay rule exceptions. Regarding the emotion in the caller's voices, Judge further held that the evidence was relevant as to why law enforcement was sent to 1122 King Road on November 13, 2022, as opposed to just EMS when the call was for an unconscious individual. So basically what it's saying is that because of the crying and the yelling and everything that was going on behind it, they felt that there was enough of an emergency to send in, you know, everybody, you know, law enforcement, EMS, the whole 9 yards. All right, so let's break it down. Let's go through it. So you have Q, which is going to be your dispatcher. I have the dispatcher highlighted in yellow. Then we have a woman on the phone, A. Then we have woman 1, and then we have, which is A1, and then we have man, who is A2. Woman A is going to be in pink. Woman A1 is going to be in green, and A2 is going to be in blue. That's going to be the man. I believe because this is Bethany's phone. Remember, we found out in other documents that Bethany's phone is the one that called 911. That I think a woman is going to be Bethany. I think that's who's Bethany, and I think A1 is going to be EA, and A2 is going to be HJ. So we'll try to keep it like that. Let's see. So did Hunter find Xana or Emily? It was Hunter who found everybody, or Hunter who found Xana. All right. 911 location of your emergency. Woman says, "Hi, something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what we have. What is the address of the emergency?" 1122. No, don't. What is the rest of the address? Oh, Kings Road. Dispatch goes, "And is this a house or apartment?" The woman says, "It's a house." And then dispatch asks, "Can you repeat the address to make sure that you have it right?" And then another woman comes on the phone and says, "I'll talk to you guys. We live at the right, so we're next to them." So I think what this thing is saying right here, or this person right here is saying, is that this is the next door neighbor. We live to the right. We live next to them. I think this is EA, who I believe is HJ's significant other at the time. I don't know if they're still in a relationship or not, or what their status is. But at the time, I believe they were in a relationship, and I believe he was at her house. The dispatcher goes, "I need someone to repeat the address for verification." The second woman says the address and then repeats 1122 King Road. Dispatch asks, "What's the phone number you're calling from?" A asks, "What's your phone number?" And then you can hear the first woman begin to give out a phone number. So this is why I believe that this is Bethany, because was called from Bethany's phone. So I'm assuming woman 1 is Bethany, Emily is A2, and Hunter is A2. I'm sorry, Emily is A1 and Hunter is A2. They go back and forth about the phone number, and then dispatch says, "Okay, tell me exactly what's going on." E says, one of the roommates who passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up." And then Bethany says, "No, we saw." And then dispatch says, "Okay." E says, "Oh, and they saw some man in the house last night." Yeah. And then Bethany comes back and says, "Hi." And then dispatch says, and are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around. Bethany says, can I just tell you what happened? Pretty much. Now, Bethany didn't see everything, right? That was Dylan who saw, the masked person in the house and things. Bethany was the one who was trying to make sense of everything and even thought that maybe perhaps the person in all black was Xana. And so this is not first person, right? This is why this is part of the hearsay aspect. So there's probably part of this 911 call that we don't know about that could be first person. Who knows? Maybe Dylan did get on the phone at some point and say something about the situation that was not going to be part of the hearsay portion. So it says, I don't really know. Pretty much it says, what's going on? Is someone passed out right now? And Bethany goes, I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m. And then it goes ... meaning there's more to this of what she's saying, but they're not putting it in this document. So that tells me there's probably more of this that has happened, because it doesn't really make sense when you read it out loud. Once you put into contents that this is just the hearsay stuff, then that's why it might make sense that it seems like pieced together. Dispatch asks, okay, I need to know what's going on right now. If someone is passed out, can you find that out? Bethany goes, yeah, I'll come. Come on. We got to go check, but we have to. Is she passed out? She's passed out. What's wrong? So I think at this point, the extent of what they probably have seen is just Xana on the ground. If they were on the first floor, they may have barely crept up to the second floor, kind of looked down the hallway. I'm trying to remember if you can, how far up into that second floor from the first that stairway from the first to the second floor, do you have to go before you can look down the hallway and see? I mean, if it's something that as you're creeping up, you can stick your head out over and see down the hallway, you may not be able to notice the blood if you're not looking or you're not getting too close, right? If you're looking at it from a distance, they probably are understanding what they heard, putting two to two together and just probably in denial about what's going on. Well, let's continue. Dispatch comes back stating that dispatching Moscow Law ambulance for, and then you hear Bethany say she's not waking up. And then dispatch says unconscious 1122 King. And now this is dispatch actually talking to an ambulance. I'm assuming law ambulance means, officers and ambulance. And this is them dispatching it. Q1 and all the other Qs are first responders. So Q1 says 7-0 en route. Dispatch comes back and says, okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way. Bethany comes back, says, okay, maybe. Dispatch says something that they can't is undistinguishable. 1122 King Road. All ambulance respond for unconsciousness. 1122 King Road. Q2 copies. That's another first responder. And they talk back and forth. Going back, this is dispatch talking with first responders. Dispatch says at one point, multiple RPs on the phone, advising saying the roommate on the scene is passed out, not waking up, believes she got drunk last night, and about a male being in the room with them. And then this is when that one-eyed copy about 20-year-old female unconscious trying to get further. And then all of a sudden, A2 comes on the line and says, yeah, it's, and it says Evan in parentheses. Now, could this be another person, somebody named Evan? Perhaps. I'm not sure. I thought maybe this could be HJ because I thought he was on the phone at one point. But this, all we know is that this is a male. And then you also hear, and this is also, yeah, A2 is on the phone. Because, well, Bethany's also on the phone. She says, okay. And then dispatch goes, okay, how old is she? And then Bethany says, she's 20. Dispatch confirms. Bethany says, yes, 20. Do you want to talk to EM? And then dispatch says, okay. And then A2 comes on saying, hello. And dispatch says, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people. Now, I don't know if the dispatcher is accurate there, because it's only 3 people that she's talked to. A1 to A1 and A2. Unless, as I mentioned, this might be where she's also spoken to maybe perhaps Dylan, who isn't speaking hearsay, who's talking first person. Which is why she might mention 4, but we only see 3. And Tim says maybe misheard and it was supposed to be Ethan. I think that's quite a bit possibility. Dispatch asks, or A2, the man comes back saying, the male says, okay, sorry, they just gave me the phone. Dispatch says, is she breathing? The male says, hello. Dispatch asks, is she breathing? The male says, no. Dispatch says, okay. The male says, Bethany or Dylan, I need you to talk to them. Okay, I can't talk to them. I need you to talk to them. Bethany comes back and says, okay, hello. Dispatch says, I've already sent an ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line. Bethany acknowledges. Dispatch says, if there's a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now. Tell me when you have it. Units responding, RP's advising. There's some sort of noise. Dispatch says the patient is not conscious, not breathing. Another noise, something you can't tell, some sort of loud noise possibly coming from Bethany. Dispatch asks if there was a defibrillator available. Send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it. Bethany says we don't have one. Q1, which is a first responder, says unconscious, not breathing. Bethany asks, do you have a defibrillator? First responder says, yep. Then Bethany tells the dispatcher, yes, we have one. The dispatcher asks, are you talking to an officer? She says, yes. And this is where the dispatcher says, all right, I'll let you go. And Bethany says, okay, thank you, bye. And then the rest is just them talking back and forth about between her and first responders, and Q4 comes in saying, I think we have a homicide. So that's pretty much the 911 call. Now, obviously there's a lot there that we're not going to be able to pull out of this, and that's going to be the emotion, the raw emotion that is coming out of this. You know, these folks it sounds like there was yelling and crying and screaming, and you know, you're not going to capture that just kind of reading this. Plus, it also seems to not be 100% complete. This is just the hearsay stuff, because it's not coming from Dylan, who's the person who actually saw somebody inside the house. Thank you, Leslie and Billy, for your $2 super sticker. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, I agree there's no harm in releasing these. I think BF and DM may have requested that not be maybe out of embarrassment. It's an interesting point. That's an interesting point there. Interesting point. I didn't think about that. However, I don't know if embarrassment would be a reason behind not releasing stuff. I think maybe perhaps, you know how that said, I'm scared. And I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of people that think it says I'm screwed. And they're going to try to come up with this whole fake narrative. Maybe that's the reason why. But, you know, Judge Hibbler said no more secrecy. He wants things to be redacted. And here it is. Put it out there. Put it up there. No more hiding. We now know a few things. We now know the 911 call-ish. I mean, it's not everything, obviously. Some of the text messages and some of the conversation that may have gone down that night. We also know that Bryan Kohberger purchased a K-bar knife and sheath off of Amazon. It was delivered to his home. And so there's a lot of things that have been broken down. We also know that there's the possibility of DNA under the fingernail of one of the victims that matches to Bryan Kohberger. I know the defense is going to go in there and say it's exculpatory, but there's a lot of things that they have said is exculpatory as far as uh, different things. Like, for instance, one of them being that Bryan Kohberger could not have been the person that committed this crime because there's not video of a white Elantra leaving Moscow through 95 south through Moscow and what is it, Palouse River Drive in that intersection, even though there's other routes that can take you around that intersection so that you're not captured on camera. And for a person who had committed this crime must have gone through a lot of planning. And to think that they didn't plan out an escape route where cameras are located and things of that nature, I think would have been a foolish thought, especially once we find out how much planning went into this. And so, they want it out for a reason. That was one of the things that I had questioned is if they can say it's 100% not his, why do you want it out? I'd be screaming on the roof saying, no, there's somebody else out there. But some interesting things. That's actually a big conversation that myself and former FBI agent Jen Coffin-Naffer had last night on the show. Make sure you go check out that interview. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Okay, so we already talked about the text messages. All right, so here's the last one. All right, so we're going to do some mapping and things of that nature. You know it, Tim. Don't trust him as far as you can throw him. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Corporal Punishment asked, DM passed out, didn't she, allegedly? I mean, that was the rumor that somebody did, right? Someone passed out. Not sure. All right, so this is a state's motion, self-authenticated of records and reliance. So now comes the state of Idaho, and they want the admission of certain evidence in accordance to Idaho rule, evidence 803, et cetera, against the hearsay rule. And so let's break it down. Now, these aren't everything. This is just some of the evidence that the state intends to introduce at trial. So it says here, at trial, the state intends to introduce the following certified statements and or records. They're going to talk about 1320 Linda Lane surveillance footage for November 13, 2022. Now, they talk about two different Linda Lane footage, 1320 and 1330. That's going to be interesting when we look at the map when we bring it up here in a second, because I have all of these things plotted down for us. But we're going to go through everything first, and then we'll go back at the surveillance tapes. We have a Albertson and Clarkson, Washington surveillance. This is also for November 13, 2022. Amazon financial and user records for Bryan Kohberger. AT&T phone records for Bryan Kohberger, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle. Bagel shop surveillance video for November 13th, 2022. Now that one I couldn't find because there's a few bagel shops and they're not very specific. So I left that one open because I couldn't find that one, but I found majority of the other ones. The next one's going to be the Bank of America records for Bethany and Xana Kernodle. Banner Bank records for Ethan Chapin. Cafe Aretista video surveillance for November 13th, 2022. Corner Club video surveillance for November 12th through the 13th, 2022. That's going to be inside the house, inside the Corner Club. We've also that one still image where you can see the victims talking with Jack Decor, and you can also see Adam in the background as well, and some other persons that are patrons of the Corner Club. I want to say thank you to Stephen for your $20 super chat. Daniel, how do we know for sure that Kohberger bought the K-Bar knife on Amazon? Did I miss something? Yeah, so they were talking about the purchase of the they were talking about the Amazon click activity and the searches, and it spoke about how just because a person purchased, I believe it was specifically the knife, is just because somebody made a purchase on Amazon and it was delivered to their house, purchased, with the credit card by the person, doesn't mean that they took possession of it. And so, yeah, he purchased the K-Bar knife, but that was reported back by, I believe it was Dateline a while ago, and they have some pretty good sources. You know, they don't just throw out those type of things without having something to back it up. So just because, you know, we in the public don't know about it, don't mean it's not true. And now it's come to find out that it is true. And what Dateline reported that's not in the documents is that purchase came in April of 2022 before he actually moved to Moscow. So that kind of tells me, for those that are looking for motive, that this is a guy that was planning on committing a crime like this. You know, victims were maybe not necessarily who they are, played a huge role as far as relative to who they are to him in that moment. Maybe perhaps the fact that they weren't connected to him made them his victims so that it couldn't be traced back to him, or at least he thought. But yeah, he did purchase it. And thank you for your donation. We appreciate that. All right. Corner Club financial transaction and receipts. Costco, Clarkson, Washington, surveillance video from November 13th. We have the sales student records regarding Bryan Kohberger. Dick's Sporting Goods sale record of sale for Bryan Kohberger. Now we know he had a Dickies jumpsuit, but maybe it was Dick's, and people read that wrong. But there was a a tag and a receipt that was left at his apartment complex for something of importance because it was collected. Discover financial records for Kaylee Goncalves, DoorDash records for Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin, early warning records, Elaine financial records for Kaylee Goncalves, ENS services 1300 Johnson Avenue, Pullman, surveillance for November 13th, Farmers Insurance surveillance video for November 13th, which there's a few different surveillance places, or there's a few different Farmers Insurance places. I think I found the one that they're referring to, though. Thank you, Miss Doglover, for your $4.99 super chat. This case is my worst nightmare. We had a lot of security issues when I was in the university. Our landlord didn't care. Well, sorry to hear that. But yeah. I think this case opened up a lot of people's eyes. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I used to check my doors and locks and stuff like that every night. But since this case happened, I do it 3 or 4 times before I go to sleep. I'm not going to lie. Let's see. Farmers Insurance video. So, this is a different Farmers. Oh, never mind. This is the same one. That's where I was at. Sorry about that. Floyd's Cannabis Company surveillance video. Forest Dex Crypto Company financial records for Bryan Kohberger. The Grub Truck video surveillance video for November 13th. Harbor Freight business and surveillance records. Now, this doesn't have a date on it, the Harbor Freight one. So I wonder what it is that he's purchasing at Harbor Freight, because this isn't the November 13th. This is something different, right? Because all the other ones say November 12th, November 13th. This is the night of the incident. This doesn't. Harbor Freight business and surveillance records. What did Bryan Kohberger buy at Harbor Freight? I wonder. Maybe it was the shovels. Maybe it was the gloves. I wonder if those items can still be found. Clothing, perhaps it was clothing at Harbor Freight. That could be it too. Yeah, but yeah, Harbor Freight, Idaho Central Credit Union bank records for Madison Mogen, Indian Lake Mountain surveillance records. And again, this doesn't have a date, but the Indian Mountain Lake surveillance, or Indian Mountain Lake, is in Albertsville, Pennsylvania. So this is one of the areas that I guess like the what is it called? Like the association area, their cameras. Wonder if this is the one that captured him just kind of cleaning out his car so much. Interesting stuff, though. Well, maybe a tarp, waterproof tarp, allegedly. Tools, gloves, tarps. That's what I'm hearing. But I'm seeing in the live chat. Missing shower curtain is involved. Yeah. All right. So Jonas Fabrics financial records. Latol County. So somebody bought something at Joanne Fabrics financial records. So somebody bought something at Joanne's that they thought of interest. Latol County Sheriff's Office Deputy Darren Duke's body camera video on August 21st, 2022. And so this is going to be the officer who pulled over Bryan Kohberger. Latol County Sheriff's Office citation issued on August 21st, 2022. And I think that's going to be the one where I believe it was a no seatbelt violation. And this is the one I think that law enforcement is using to say that Bryan Kohberger did have possession of this vehicle in and around the time, and that it was missing a front license plate, and that he was a sole occupant and operator. Then they have Marshall's financial records for Bryan Kohberger. So he's buying some things. They're looking at his shopping list of things that he purchased. National Weather Service records for November 12th and 13th. Go figure that. You know, for the guy who said that he was going to be out there stargazing, now we find out that the state is going to be looking at National Weather Services to say, all right, well, what balls of gas were you looking at that night? You know, where were you staring at, Mr. Kohberger? If it was, you know, a overcast night and you couldn't see much because of the cloud work. All right, Numerica bank records for Kaylee Goncalves, PayPal, Venmo financial records, PNC bank records for Bryan Kohberger, Pentel data records, Pennsylvania State Employee Credit Union for Bryan Kohberger, Petco financial records for Kaylee Goncalves, Rite Aid financial records, Ross financial records, Sunset Mart. This is the one in Moscow. This is for surveillance for the night in question, and also a Sunset Mart in Pullman for surveillance for the night in question. Target's financial records, TikTok user records for Xana Kernodle, TJX financial records, which is like what, a TJ Maxx? Isn't that like also like a Marshalls or something like that? T-Mobile phone records for Kaylee. Bank records for Dylan. I can't pronounce that bank's name. I apologize. Under Armour transaction records for Bryan Kohberger. Interesting. You know, doesn't Under Armour sell like this mask thing? Don't they sell those masks that go around? You know, I'm a huge Steelers fan, and one of the players is George Pickens, and he wears this mask that goes over his over his face, and he wears it under his helmet, and it's protect, for getting sweat and stuff out. I wonder if that's the kind of mask that he was wearing. Oh, thank you so much, Deb. Umpqua Bank. I probably misspelled that or said that wrong. There you go. One of those masks. I can't pronounce that either. I wonder if Under Armour sells those type of things. Interesting, though. U.S. Chef Store in Clarkson. This is video surveillance for November 13th. Ulta Financial Records. Verizon Records for Ethan Chapin, Bethany, and JD. I'm assuming that's Jack Core. That's just an assumption. He was somebody that he was getting called that night. Remember, up till about 3:00 in the morning. So they may have, and also that he had turned in his phone for his phone to be downloaded. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's him. Walmart surveillance and financial transactions for Bryan Kohberger. See this one right here, Walmart surveillance and financial. This isn't the night of the incident. So this isn't him purchasing, something that night, or this isn't the vehicle on November 13th. This is him purchasing something at a different date. That's going to have to do with something with this case. I heard that this was the purchase of the jumpsuit at the Walmart, and I heard this was like Thursday or a couple of days before the November 13th, before the murders. That he is purchasing the jumpsuit and stuff and he's seen it at a Walmart. That's what I had heard before. I think that's what we're going to end up seeing here with this Walmart surveillance video here. And it has the transaction to go along with it. Yes, Extreme Blonde says, please, if you haven't done so, please hit that like button. Guys, if you're not catching the show, If you're not seeing, it not coming up in your notifications, is because you're not liking. If you hit the like button, that tells the YouTube that you like the content. And when we go live, it's going to give you a notification. And it's going to tell you, hey, we're live. Even if you ring the notification button, it doesn't always notify you that we're live. It's going to notify you of your top videos that you watch and the ones that you're liking the most. So hit that like button. Also, Nina Drew comes in with a $1.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. The Farm Road pullover. Yes, that's the one that we were referring to. Would you look at that? Under Armour unisex. I cannot pronounce that. That mask, $24.99. I wonder if that's what he purchased. Yes, they do. They sell sweat-resistant shirts to reduce sweat. 100%. 100%. Let's continue. Washington Trust bank records for Bryan Kohberger. Washington Department Motor Vehicle Registration documents for Bryan Kohberger. And surveillance for November 18th. That's when he went in there and picked up his new plates. Remember that? That's when he got his new plates for Washington plates. And so now he was fitting in with everybody else, not having that missing front license plate. A Wells Fargo bank records for Madison Mogen. This one's weird. This one's interesting, right? Because you have a Winco financial records for Bryan Kohberger, and you have Winco financial records and video surveillance for Bethany and Dylan, Kaylee, Maddie, and or Xana Kernodle. For all of the victims. Is that where they think maybe just maybe he came across them? I mean, he had to come across them somehow. It's not like he just, at one point he had to have crossed paths. Now they're looking for video of every time that they were in that store. All of them. And they're trying to cross-reference if Bryan Kohberger was in the store at the same time. And that is going to be used in court. Or they intend on using this in court. Huh. Interesting stuff. A lot of people have been asking, where did they come across? This is the only thing that I can see. You have Bryan Kohberger's name and all of the victims' name associated with a single place. And Winco is it's the grocery store, like the major grocery place there in the area. So that's the only thing that ties in all of them together. So I wonder if that's where they cross paths. All righty. So Washington State University, WSU video surveillance for November 13th and WSU parking records. So the university surveillance video for November 13th. Remember, guys, I'm telling you, he was driving up Nevada Street, heading down towards that WSU area. There's going to be surveillance video of him in that area. I wonder if he had something to do, if there is some sort of chem lab break-in, if it had something to do with that night. But interesting stuff there. Let's see. Small cordless wet dry vacuum sold at Harbor Freight. Yeah. If the guy went in there, he had a bag with clothes, he had a vacuum. I'm not saying he did. But the train of thought say that Dylan's thought, what she thought she saw was accurate, and that was some sort of vacuum. Are you surprised he forgot something? Even though it's something as important as a knife sheath, with so much stuff that he's taking into that house and so many things that he's trying to stay ahead of and that he planned, I'm not really surprised that he forgot some stuff. None of this is coincidence. No, I don't think so either. Is there no grocery store in Pullman? Well, you know what? Let's pull this up so I can show you guys where it's at. Let's pull this up. Let's make me smaller here. Pull this out. All righty. So it's right here. It's this food store. Now it's right in the entrance of Idaho. And you know what? Hold on. Wait a minute. File. Oh crap. This is where Bryan Kohberger was pulled over on August 21st. Was in this area. Bryan Kohberger was pulled over right here August 21st for the no seatbelt thing. Right in front of Winco. And they're using that stop as a reason behind maybe perhaps that he was surveilling them, as Ms. Coffindaffer brilliantly brought up last night. There could be that in Idaho, there's a difference between like surveilling somebody and stalking someone, you know, as far as verbiage and stuff. I believe, give me a second. I just need to pull up the file. Open from drive. Give me a sec. All right, right here. Bryan Kohberger citation location, 100% right there at that intersection. That's where I have it. That's where that right here. Let me make this. So this spot right here, that citation intersection. This is the store. This is store. I knew it. When I was looking, I was like, wait a minute, isn't this where he got pulled over? According to that citation. Interesting stuff. Oh, you have me and Drew with a 99-cent super sticker, and we have Casey Marie coming in with a membership for 3 months. Because remember, they said that maybe that traffic stop, out of all the other ones, I mean, they could have utilized any of the other traffic stops as a reason for something, right? That traffic stop was also at night, and something told me that there has to be more than just like, how did they see that he didn't have a seatbelt? Like something, oh man, I can't wait to see what that traffic stop was like. Can't wait to see. All right, let me see. How did I do this? Hold on, let me pull this up. I don't know how I switched from one end to another. Open. No, that's not it. How did I do that? Give me 1 second. I'm not the most computer guy. No. Oh gosh, I think I may have lost all the other ones I did earlier today. Give me 1 second. I'll figure it out. There it is. Phew. All right, let me pull it back up. Sorry, y'all. All righty. So these are the cameras that were listed, or the places that were listed in that document that we were reading, as far as surveillance cameras that are going to be brought into court. Didn't Kaylee say she was being stalked at a grocery store? You know, I'm familiar with that grocery store incident. It didn't sound like that was Bryan Kohberger, based on what I understand. But I don't know. But that, I mean, look, that's crazy. Make sure I don't got anything else here real quick. All right. So we have, what I have here is in red. These cameras are going to be the ones that I believe these are from that night, and these are going to be capturing footage of Bryan Kohberger's vehicle traveling that night. What I have in green are other times that Bryan Kohberger is going to be on video, or one of the victims is going to be on video. And then what I have in yellow is going to be specifically the victims. And so throughout what we saw, they mentioned Corner Club video footage, Then they had the Cafe Arista. They had the Corner Club, which I believe was somewhere down on this road as well. This is the State Farm. The Farmers Insurance. I believe it's going to be this one, just because out of all the other farmer insurance representatives in the area, this is the one that I believe I could find that was somewhat in the vicinity of a pathway of whether the victims or the suspect was at. And so you have a clear path here towards the Corner Club here. And this is the crazy one, right? So you have a camera here in the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive that captures the white Elantra. And then it travels up Indian Hills. And then, what was this street? I can't remember it for the life of me. Well, he makes a left here. I think it's Steiner. And crosses over the main drive here and is caught on the Sunset Mart intersection. And this is all within time, right? He passes one camera, and then about a minute later he passes another one, which is a little bit down the road. And then here's the 1125 Ridge Road residence, where Bryan Kohberger's defense team is saying that this vehicle here, that's 2015 Elantra, is not the same Elantra that is spotted here on the Moscow Sunset Mart video, nor is it the one that's spotted here at the King Road residence, or the one that's passing in front of the Linda Lane footage on both cameras. And so it's kind of a ridiculous argument once you look at a map, where it's like, yeah, you're following a line. This is going to be one of the ones where the defense is claiming they got the clearest image of the vehicle. Just because there's a loss of sight here, right? You have a couple of blocks here between the Sunset Mart and 1125 Ridge Road, where I guess allegedly somebody could have turned down here and Bryan Kohberger's 2015 Elantra could have turned up, and I don't know. They can come up with some random theory, but you have a clear path, and you can see at every point where you expect to see that white Elantra pass by. You have, and the crazy thing is you have both the 1320 Linda Lane and the 1330. 1320 is going to be important because not because there's some dude taking a piss on the dumpster here at 5 something in the morning, but because after the vehicle passes 1125 Ridge Road, it's headed towards the King Road residence, and in order to get there, it has to pass in front of the Linda Lane block, and you can see a vehicle pass by when anticipated just before it then turns up into the King Road residence area. And so you have those there. He traveled later on that day south all the way to Clarkston, Washington, and he was at a couple of places at Albertson. I think there was another place, and there's also the chef store. He's pretty close to that river. A lot of folks think that maybe perhaps this is where he may have threw the murder weapon. This is where maybe some evidence may have lied. Crazy stuff. But the interesting thing that I think, I just don't really believe in coincidences, is they want Bryan Kohberger's financial records for every time he was here at this place. He gets pulled over in a citation that they plan on using from here. I mean, not from here, but he's in this vicinity. He's up here somewhere. Where that's the location of where he got pulled over, right in front of this grocery store. I don't believe in coincidences. This is the only thing that ties all those female victims. They're not looking at Ethan. They're not looking for Ethan's financial records at this location, just the female victims and Bryan Kohberger's. And that's the only thing that we have seen that has all of their names tied together in one location. I think that's where they think the intersection may have happened. This is where they may have crossed paths at some point at this store. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to answer a couple of questions before we call it a show. Put a couple of stars. If you've already answered or asked a question and I didn't get to it, I'd highly ask just to re-ask that question again, because I'm not going to go too far in the past. I'm just going to look a little bit further back. So if I haven't gotten to it, I'd appreciate it if you re-ask it again. So I'm going to start off I'm just going to roll up to this part right here where we had Nina Drew's 99-cent super sticker. So put a couple of stars. Thank you. I appreciate this. Hope you're doing well, Sonia. Wait, what? That's interesting, Andy. Brian showed me in August 2022. Not saying, I'm not sure who you are. So, Winco is on Farm Road. Bingo. Yep. Let's see. Kohberger said the shopping was better in Moscow when he was asked why he was there so much. That's true. That is true. Farm Road and Pullman Highway. It's right in front of that Winco. Yeah, I didn't realize it until I pulled it up on the map and I was looking at it right there and I was like, man, I'm focused in on this intersection. Let me pull up my old maps real quick. And sure enough, that's the area where he got pulled over in August. Interesting stuff. Thank you. I appreciate that. I thought there was no evidence against BK. That's funny. Let's see. Now we know why that traffic stop was really significant. I mean, it's quite possible. I think there's a possibility there that what if we find out that a couple of the victims were at that store around that time when he got pulled over? That could show something. I really can. He got pulled over late. I think it was like at 7 or 8 when he got pulled over. I don't remember if it was that late, but these are younger ladies. I mean, depending on what time they stop selling certain snacks or alcohol. I mean, when I was in college, you would have definitely seen me at a gas station up to the time when they stopped selling on certain nights. That's for sure. Let's see. There is body cam for the Moscow traffic stop. That did come up. They did have that there. Winco's open 24 hours a day. See, this is what I'm thinking too, right, Stephen? Stephen comes in. Kohberger couldn't have been pulled over just for a seatbelt violation since it's a secondary offense in Idaho and that you can't get pulled over for that just alone. Exactly. I wonder what he got pulled over really for. Was he trying to catch up to somebody per se? You know, maybe something kind of was driving a little quick between the lanes, got pulled over. Noticed they didn't have his seatbelt. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the initial thing is, but it was at night. I remember it was in the evening. So for them to see it to begin with was impressive. So I definitely would have thought it was a secondary thing. And that's what I'm wondering too. What was the initial stop for? The initial stop. And, you know, I know somebody brought up, well, isn't that where maybe perhaps Kaylee was, you know, there was a stalker and those type of things? Yes, that perhaps that may have happened there. I have no idea. But that doesn't mean that that's the time that of significance, right? As Ms. Kalfendaffer mentioned last night, there's a possibility that he may have been watching them and they had no idea. And so because they had no idea about it, then it wouldn't have been considered stalking in the state of Idaho. And it would have been considered more of a surveillance. And which makes sense to a certain extent. You know, to me, it's stalking because I live in Texas, and to me, it falls in the lines of that. But, you know, in that area, if you look at the words or the requirements of stalking, it doesn't meet it. So is it possible that somebody was watching and they just never knew about it, had no idea? That's quite possible. Let's see. Can Ellie approach a suspicious car if his say driving slow with the lights off. If it's at night, yeah, you have to have your lights on. Well, in the state of Texas, I believe it's 30 minutes after dawn or dusk, 30 minutes between the time of 30 minutes prior to dawn and 30 minutes after dusk. The time in between there, it has to be on. Your lights have to be on. They have to emit light for X amount of feet, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know what the rules are there in Idaho. But in Texas, yeah, definitely somebody would get pulled over for not having their lights off. What up? Well, actually, I'm showing 1,765 people watching live on all platforms. That's YouTube, Twitch, X. Thank you guys on X for tuning in. I know a lot of you guys are there. Appreciate all of you guys. Make sure you follow Rumble as well, Facebook. Thank you guys. We appreciate you. Let's see. Let's see. Boom. Thank you, Amy, for your $9.99 super sticker. They may have seen him watching, and this is from Steph C. They may have seen him watching the Fall on the Grows and use seatbelt SPC, wrote the ticket to make sure it was a record and was on video. BK's windows aren't tinted. They're not tinted, but at night it's hard to see inside of somebody's car regardless. You know, I'll be honest. Now, if you're pulling up behind somebody, it's not that difficult, even at night. So if there was an officer that was driving and they can see, just because his window aren't tinted and they are coming up from behind, yeah, you can see that. You know, if it's somebody that's driving, you know, side by side, it's not until they get right in front of your vehicle where you're able to really get a clear view. But that can be hard to pick up on a seatbelt. You gotta have to be looking for it. But if the cop pulled up from behind, hit him with the brights, yeah, you can probably see it. You can see it. But I just, like I said, if it was that dark, I wonder if it was something else that happened, because even at that, I mean, you got to hit them with your brights to be able to see it like that. Like, well, at least back in the day, headlights are a lot different nowadays. That's for sure. They're a lot brighter than they were 12 years ago. Let's see. Costco. I think I saw something for Costco as well. I can't remember. Thank you, Nina. Appreciate that for your $1.99 super sticker. And also thank you, Jay, for your $9.99 super sticker. Harbor Freight sells cut resistant gloves. Interesting. Nina Drew again. Thank you so much, Nina. You're really, really supporting it out for everybody today. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate all you guys, everybody that's supported, everybody that's just liked or subscribed or followed. We appreciate y'all. Seeing them at the grocery store makes sense. BK seems very social, so maybe antisocial, but everyone needs groceries. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Venmo, someone remind me to look at those. The girls called for an unconscious person that would wake up, but wouldn't there have been quite a bit of blood around Xana? See, it was Hunter who discovered Xana, but it wasn't Hunter who was on the phone. It was one of the other females. And so if you go and you listen to Hunter speaking at the Celebration Alive, this is weeks later, and he's talking about his friendship with his buddy Ethan. The guy's having a hard time speaking. You know, I'd imagine after seeing what he saw, he's probably, you know, right at that moment, there's probably a lot of trauma and shock going on. There may be a reason why he didn't speak much, if that wasn't him on the phone at all. You know, even to Bethany and Dylan, I mean, it seems like it was a chaotic moment for him to just say, all right, here's everything that I saw. Here are all the details. He may have just been like, you know, in shock, and nobody knew what was going on. But I do agree. It's weird, right? I mean, it's odd. I don't think it'd be wrong for anybody to look into it and say, hey, or look at it and say something don't seem right there. But when you really take a deep dive and you really start to think about, all right, we have some young people here who are during the moment, probably under the influence of alcohol. You have some folks who are asleep. From the sound of it doesn't sound like Bethany was awake through most of it. I mean, she was trying to come up with excuses as far as what Dylan saw. Dylan was the one that was really like, no, there was a person, they had a ski mask, it wasn't Xana in all black. So and she herself, I mean, you have your friend who's saying, nah, don't worry about it, and which is something that we had spoken about, because we talked about it early when the 8 hours was a question. When we found out about it, we were like, hey, well, maybe there was some sense of false security there when Bethany answered the phone, like, all right, well, she's okay, so then everybody else must be okay. Especially once we find out Dylan may have had some lucid dreams and things of that nature. Does it make it like 100% right? No. Should they have called 911? 100%, but I don't think anything would have changed. I think at the very least, or the very most, Bryan Kohberger would have gotten caught a lot sooner had they called 911. Let's see. The C Joy comes in with a $5 super chat saying, Harbor Freight sells cut resistant gloves. Walmart too. That is true. Following too close. There's a possibility it was following too close. It was at 11:40 p.m. I wonder what time alcohol is stopped being sold in Moscow, Idaho. If it's midnight, what day of the week as well, because sometimes that makes a difference, right? Because like here in Texas, there's a difference of when you can purchase alcohol depending on what day of the week it is, and how late you can purchase it, how early you can start purchasing it as well. So I don't know the rules there, but if they can purchase alcohol wait till midnight, that might be what they were doing. Let's see. Steven comes in with a $10 super chat. Says, Daniel, I think you are wrong from a couple of weeks ago when you thought that neither Fields nor Wilson would be starting for the Steelers. I believe Fields will be. Laugh out loud. I mean, just to answer that real quick, I just think that if you think you have your starting quarterback, you're not going to let them go test the market and let somebody else pull them away. If somebody does and you're left with plan B in that position, you're going to be in a world of hurt unless you're planning for Manning, meaning Archie Manning in next year's draft, which I'm not too far post from that. So I don't know, maybe not. We'll see. But thank you for the donation. Or he was driving high and he was weird behind the wheel. I mean, if he was driving high, I would assume that if it was noticeable in his driving, he may have gotten arrested for like DUI or DWI. I'm not sure how the arrests go there. But then again, maybe possibly. I'm not sure. He's tailgating the girls. He could be. Let's see. I'm going to answer just a couple more. Make sure I'm not missing any supers. Thank you guys. But yeah, all righty, guys. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. That's going to do it for us tonight. I want to say, please hit that subscribe button, like button, share this with everybody that you possibly can. Let's get the word out. That way people are listening to, I don't want to say the right facts, just because like especially when it comes to the like scared and screwed thing, right? Because that can be construed into a lot of different ways. If somebody's coming out here and saying that Dylan told Bethany I'm screwed, and Bethany's acknowledging I know that you are, that can look like a really bad thing. And when you look at the fact that the R is capitalized, that tells you that the next, between the R and that, that C, it was supposed to be an A. She hit the capitalization button instead. And so it's scared, not screwed. And which really changes the entire perspective of that one simple text message, and how those two text messages correlate. And so let's make sure that we combat that type of bad report. Well, not necessarily bad reporting, but misreporting of that type of information. And and get this out there. I want to say thank you to everybody, prayers to the families and to the victims and to their friends and to the area. I mean, they were all victims in this. Everybody that lived in that area that was in fear of going out or locking their doors or those type of things, just because it happened in proximity to where they live. And everybody in that area deserves justice. And I strongly, strongly believe it's coming. And so with that being said, guys, I'm out of here. Until next time,